Once again, good afternoon everyone. I am Dexter F. Tinampay for your reporter for this afternoon. So today's topic, we are going to discuss all about the adaptations for struggling writers. And so the first that we are going to tackle is all about the accommodation in the learning environment. So letter A, increase instructional time for writing. So for this learning environment, we all know that as a future educator, we need to have a lot of time to teach the learners so that we can ensure that there is a proper time allotment of the learning process of the students. And also, we need to provide varied activities for the students to learn, and as well as the students can choose which way they learn best. Letter B, provide quiet and comfortable space for students to work. So for this learning environment, it can help for the learners so that they can able to concentrate, focus, and do his or her task of the activities given from the teachers. So beside that, it can also allow them to remember the lessons thoroughly and they can express their own ideas without any distractions. So letter C, provide unimpeded access to writing tools. So it is very important also to provide unimpeded so that they can easily to access for their writing tools. So letter D, let students identify and select meaningful reinforcement for achieving writing goals. For example, is that reinforcement menu. So reinforcement, it is a machine learning training method based on rewarding desired behaviors and or punishing undesired one. So in other words or in general, a reinforcement learning is able to perceive, interpret on its environment, take actions, and learn through trial and errors. So there are two types of reinforcement, which is the positive reinforcement and that the negative reinforcement. So when we talk about positive reinforcement, it is the rewards, while the negative reinforcement, it is a punishment. So for example, for the positive reinforcement, so I will give the activities from the students. If they got a perfect score, I will give them an exempted for the next exam. Then for the negative reinforcement, if my students did not participate, they didn't got a plus point. So those are the reinforcement, which is the positive and the negative reinforcement. So letter A is consult with an occupational therapist to identify specialized adaptations, for example, the chair, voice, and conventions. So this learning environment aims to guide occupational therapy to facilitate the learners or the students' ability to make adaptations to engage in meaningful activities. So this learning environment can help to emphasize the interactions between the teachers and the learners. So we are done about the learning environment. So this time we are going to move on about the accommodations in the instructional materials. So letter A, simplify language of writing prompts. So we should be use a plain, a clear language to help the learners to be easy to read, understand, and others. So always remember that we can choose a simple word or phrase over a complex one. So letter B is highlight keywords and phrases. It is very important because the purpose of highlighting is to draw attention to the important information in the text. And also you can pick out the important parts and then you can give an effective way to remove or to review the information later. So in other words, highlight is one of very important because you can jot down those important words, text, and information given from our teachers. Next is the letter C is transition from simple to more elaborate graphic organizer and procedural checklist. The learners or the students tend to view the completions of the graphic organizer as an end in itself rather than a means towards developing more sophisticated insight. So this goal can help for the learners to ensure that the structure of the organizer requires students to make connections between them. Letter D is post strategies, graphic organizers, and checklists in the classroom and give students personal copies. So of course, after posting those activities, the graphic organizer and the checklist, we can also give them those individual copies to have their guide or they can master on the given copy. So letter E is develop individualized spelling lists. So in these instructional materials, we should be teach the learners to reconcile how the word sounds, how it looks, and how it employs the rules and idiosyncrasies of our language. So in other hand, we should be able to practice until they can learn and develop their spelling list. Letter F is have students keep a personal dictionary of their own words and frequently use spelling vocabulary. Of course, we should provide for the learners in their dictionary so that they can know them better and also we can have a knowledge about those words. So letter G is provide paper positioning marks on students' desks. So it is very important because it enables the students to handwrite comfortably being able to see what they are writing. And also it is also allow them the non-writing hand to move the paper up the table so that the writing hand also or the writing hand elbow can stay in their same position. So letter H is provide pencil grips for the students. So it is important to provide the pencil grips for the learners to enable the writers to move the fingers and controlling the pencil or pen with efficient finger movements. And also it can help to develop the fine motor skills and users control over their handwriting. So letter I is provide raised or colored line paper. Of course, raised line paper help the students by having an embossed or raised line giving them sensory feedback for the top and bottom lines. Other adapted writing paper may have different color top, so middle and the bottom lines to give students for beginning and the ending letters. And lastly is that provide students with personal copies of alphabet strips. So of course, as a future educator, I need to provide my students in their personal alphabetical strips so that they can practice determine in the given alphabet. And also it enable for the beginning readers to figure out how printed text is associated with the spoken language. Also, we can master of the letter names can make learning better sounds easier for the students, readers, and others. So I think that would be all. If you have some clarifications, violence reactions, and others, and that would be all. Thank you and God bless us all.